Great. Hey, I'm Sam. I'm the founder and CEO of Grand Engine. I'm really pleased to be with you this afternoon. We did a good session yesterday down on East 29th Street, and really pleased to be here again. Alexandria's been a long partner of mine personally. They were an investor in my venture fund in 2001, and I've known the firm and the team quite a bit when I lived in Research Triangle Park and certainly here in New York City. So love the venue, and you were the great group. A special thanks to Mike and also Maria. She's the brains behind feeding all of you today. So if you haven't given her a high five, please do that. So for the format for today is we're going to go for about 30 minutes talking about what's going on in the federal government, what you can do about it. Then we'll touch on artificial intelligence in use. We'll get a demo for you to talk about our product, where AI is useful, where it's not. And then we'll talk about longer term funding strategies around getting tens of millions of dollars from the federal government for your medtech, biotech startup. So that'll be today. And then at 12:30, we'll try and put a bow on me to you. Feel free to ask questions along the way, and we'll have hopefully 30 minutes, 20 minutes or so to do any office hours or anything that you would want. If you do want to have more in-depth conversation about getting your company funded, we can certainly do that. I've got a 1 o'clock, unfortunately, but we've got a team that can meet with you at your office one-on-one starting at 1 p.m. So if you can just raise your hand after we wrap, if you'd like to do that, we'll get that organized right after we do the webinar session conclusion. So that's the agenda of what we're going to talk about today. Holler any questions along the way. Quickly, just so you know who is talking with you and talking to you, Grand Engine was started just under 10 years ago in Research Triangle Park, where I lived for 25 years. I now live in New York City, and that top line on the slide is really our bottom line. We're in this business to save lives and extend the length of a quality life. Hey, welcome. There's pizza over there if you want to grab some. And we do that, of course, by getting non-dilutive funding for your company from federal agencies, state, nonprofits, and global sources. And we're really here to help bring product into market to improve the standard of care for patients. We have over 77 people in the company, and we have many elements of our firm, most importantly, the talent of the people, but also our processes for doing reviews before we contract, how we write our grants, doing external review, people that sit on study section, and those really converge on an output metric of our win rate is 2x to 4x higher than the national average. So last year it was 3 to 5x higher because for reasons we'll talk about, but that's our long run success rate. So really we're here to add value and content, so not really an infomercial at all. As a quick recap, the benefits of getting non-dilutive funding. So certainly the money helps, but the effort you expend to get that money, call that return on investment. There's pizza there, grab a seat wherever it works for you guys, please. Thanks for joining. There's no better way to spend $10,000, $20,000 with an external firm or do it yourself to get $250,000 to up to $3 million into your company. And that money is not something you have to sell shares, you don't have to pay it back, right? That equation of spending that amount of money or time to get that benefit doesn't exist anywhere else on this planet to get that return on your investment. Importantly, that grant award also acts as validation from the peer review, which remains the gold standard. That's valuable for investors, for strategic partners. That's as valuable as the money, depending on where you are in your cycle. Everything takes a long time in a biotech company. Getting grants, you'll know in 3 months if you're going to get funded. That award, a good grant, will show up in 6 months. That is as long or shorter than raising equity. And importantly, the act of writing down in a very detailed way the steps you need to do to meet your milestones and realize success of the aims of the grant is tantamount to actually doing it well. And that level of rigor that goes into a grant improves the likelihood of a win. We're very good at winning grants, and that equals success when you actually go to build your product. So the effort you put in is absolutely in line with your effort of building your company. So those are at least four reasons why getting grant funding is highly advantageous. So let's dive in on what's going on in the federal lending landscape. We'll touch on 2024, where we are right now, but importantly, the outlook for 26, and really, what do you do about this chaos that's all around us? So first, looking at 2024, there's a long run, you can see on the chart on the left, a long run dynamic of grant funding becoming more competitive. This is NIH, small business funding through the SBIR STTR program, approval rates for the type of grant over the last 25 plus years. 2024, the most competitive or the lowest approval rate the NIH has ever had. Why is that? If you think about getting grant funding as a supply and demand equation, supply being the amount of dollars that's available, demand being how many people are going after that money. And a grant gets awarded when it meets the threshold for a fundable score. 2024, you can see the volume was right around where it was at COVID, right? And COVID, everyone was writing grants because they couldn't go to the lab, right? The increase in 2024 from 2023 is really driven by AI. Everyone woke up in 2024 and started writing grants using AI. So the volume of submissions went up significantly you can see that rise versus 2023. The important thing around winning grants, though, is not that you submit a grant, but that you submit a winning grant. And so AI wrote a bunch of crap, or people allowed AI to write a bunch of crap. We heard this from reviewers that work for us that are conflicts cleared. We heard this from program officers. There's a clear pattern of poorer quality. And that's what drove the lowest approval rates. So volume was down 24% volume was up, more submissions up by 25%, but the number of approval, the rate was down by 37%. More grants went to phase 2s than phase 1s. Not ironically, or not inconsequentially, Grant Engine's win rate went up in 2024 because quality matters. So that's the story looking backwards, and that theme of quality and submitting more quality applications works. So we'll come back to that theme. Let's talk about where we are today. Quick snapshot that this is the first 100 days, the next 2 slides, but this theme continues to today of this current administration. Despite DOGE, talk about fiscal lockdowns, grants getting mothballed and canceled, the current administration spent 11% more this year than they did in 2024, right? Total government spend. However, this is the first 100 days, and by and large, this theme continues. The current administration has underspent NIH funding by it's now right around 31% year to date, is less than what it was last year in 2024. The NIH funds more medical research than any other organization in the world. And what is ironic, and I guess tragic, you could say, is that there's a continuing resolution in law that the government for NIH will spend the same amount in 2025 as they did in 2024. But yet, in fact, this is being underspent. And technically, that is against the law because that money has been appropriated. And technically, there's something called impoundment. So the federal agencies are running a real risk by not spending money that has been appropriated by the committees that do that. So that's the world that we're living in right now. And the other takeaway from 2025 that we're in right now is that, yes, there's less money being spent, but the same amount has been approved to spend. But more than that, people have stepped off on the sidelines because of fear and loathing and chaos. So today, it is actually easier to get a grant from the NIH than it has ever been. Because while the budget is, they're spending a little bit less, more than that, more people are on the sidelines thinking the program won't exist. So we normally have 25 or so, maybe 30 grants at this stage of the year that'll get approved. That list is over 35 to 40 right now. And that's because we told our clients to stay the course in the face of chaos, uncertainty, continue to apply for winning grants that are competitive. And they did that. And now they're enjoying a greater likelihood of getting funded. The number of people that have submitted for grants in 2025 is, depending on the source you talk to, either 1/2 what it was in 2024 to 1/3. That's the demand. The demand is just less right now for a slightly less amount of money. So that theme you'll hear in a moment of no matter what happens, continue to stay the course, be persistent, continue to go after this money. Everyone else that isn't hearing this message, or everyone that's not listening to that message, more and more they're off the sidelines. And that is hurting them because they have zero chance of getting funded. And if you do apply, you have a better than average chance of getting funded because so many people are afraid and they're on the sidelines. So importantly, if you are here to build a product to improve the standard of care, reviewers more and more are being taught that there are a lot of academics on these review panels, but they're being trained, taught, more industry population on the study sections, building real world impact for your product. Clinicians are being added to the review panels in a way that they're evaluating whether or not your product will actually improve their standard of care. So commercialization, translation of your product into real world impact for a patient are the metrics that are evaluated. That's despite the same scoring criteria that you see in NIH academic grants, the company grants are evaluated in a different lens. It's about a product getting in market, being effective. Academic is about proving a hypothesis, in research. So it's same criteria, but very different lens by which they approve and evaluate. So let's turn our attention to 2026. Like, where's the future going to be, and what do you do about it? So in April, we got a hold of a leaked memo that was the big beautiful bill that called for the NIH to get cut by 40%. Right. That ended up getting passed by Congress and signed into law. It was not as bad as 40%, but pretty close. So the way dollars flow in your government, your tax dollars, is that a budget gets passed into law by Congress and then the President of the United States. And then that budget goes to an appropriations committee to appropriate a level of dollars that gets put to the federal agencies. And then those agencies have to expend those monies. So a 3-step process: legal approval, appropriations, clearance, and then expenditures. So what has happened is that we're now in the appropriations phase, right, of that big beautiful bill being happened. And what is clear from public statements from Republicans and Democrats in the House and the Senate that there is support for the NIH in 2026 at the 2024-2025 funding levels. All right. So this slide speaks to on the left-hand side, that's the memo that came out, and slightly got a little bit better, but we like the memo because it looks fresh and new, and we got our hands on it early. So that's what is signed into law. But the appropriations committees are very clearly saying to the NIH publicly, we've got your back. We actually want to have an increase in 2026 versus a decrease. So what ended up getting passed was a Health and Human Services total budget that you can see here. NIH in the law got passed, but it's up to HHS as an agency to make that final decision. And ultimately, the appropriations committees is the arbiter of how much each sub-agency within Health and Human Services gets. So this is still playing out over time. All that said, I think where we're planning on internally is that expect pay lines to get tighter, right? Expect it to be more difficult, because if you do that well, and everyone wakes up and says, I still want to get funding, and it becomes more competitive because more people are trying to get that money, you're ready for it. I think human nature is gonna drive people to continue to put their heads in the sand, but you can't count on that. So expect pay lines to get tighter. A couple of other quick updates on the government changes. BARDA and ARPA-H got moved into an Office of Healthy Futures, and there was talk to move the 27 institute centers in NIH down to 8. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see how that shakes out over time. And then a few other agencies got put under Administration for a Healthy America. So right now it's September 10th. In 20 days, the government fiscal year end ends. Right? 10/1 is the new fiscal year. So we don't have a budget for this country. And the SBIR program gets renewed every 3 years, and it's up for renewal in 20 days. So we'll talk about what that means. So here's what to look for and just what are the key dynamics. So there's a lot of things going on. Yesterday, a Democrat won a House seat that was razor thin. So that's one more seat that was Republican moved over to Democrat. So razor thin in the House, nominally more of an edge on the Senate. And there's a lot of things going on in our world, right, in our government. But a few of the key things are that this Epstein thing, you can't turn on the news, regardless of your political leanings, and not hear about Epstein. Right? So that is slowly but surely eroding Trump's stranglehold on his Republican base. You hear Republicans being much more vocal about addressing that. So that's a dynamic. There's a stopgap thought to try and avert a government shutdown. So if the government doesn't have a budget by October 1st, the government shuts down. Right? So what's going to happen? You've got hardliners on the Republican side and hardliners on the Democrat side. You've got more pragmatists on both parties. So there's this battle between what do we do to keep our country funded? What do we do for funding for small businesses? The prediction we've got is that these are the things to watch. I think end of day, the most likely outcome, and as Yogi Berra said, saying what's going to happen is very hard, especially about the future. I don't know what's going to happen. It's difficult to predict, but I would say a most likely outcome is the country passes a continuing resolution that continues to fund the government through around Thanksgiving at the same levels in 26 as in 2025. So that means that there's going to be money for the NIH for you to apply for grants. The SBIR program in particular is right now an allocation of just under 4% of any federal agency. Right? In Project 2025, if you happen to read that, on page 755, there is a call for an increase of the SBIR program as a percentage of every federal agency. And if you've been following the news over the last 9 months or so, the Trump administration has by and large followed everything that's in Project 2025, from immigration to tariffs to handling other agencies. So there's that data point in Project 2025. As well, there's clearly bipartisan support for an increase of the SBIR program. When you think about the SBIR program as a government, your tax dollars at work as a government program that supports economic development, there's no better return on investment for a government dollar spent. It is, from farm subsidies to food stamps, a better yield. And there's a bill circulating in the House right now that would call for the SBIR program to go from just under 4% to 8%, so more than doubling. Also, this bill calls for this to become permanent law versus a renewal every 3 years. So that's in the works. I think it's very difficult politically, and we've seen this every 3 years since the 70s when this program started. It's never not been renewed. It's possible, but politically, that will be very dangerous for our elected officials. So for that reason, I think it's very likely that we get it renewed, and I think there's talk about let's do more of what these programs do for us. So that's where we're going. I think the key message is there is money there, and many people are on the sidelines. If you don't submit, you're not going to win. And we recommend submitting quality applications because your chances are better now than they have ever been. And regardless of what happens, if you submit quality applications, eventually you're going to get funded. And cash is among the most valuable resources, perhaps the most valuable resource in your company. So we're going to quickly touch on AI, which was promised in the agenda, and the use of AI. So the short story we saw in 24, AI was used and used poorly. Right? AI will write words on a page, no doubt, but it's not quality words. And you need quality. You need to converge on a winning submission. So we have been using AI to write projects for over a year. It's a very effective tool today at writing really good first drafts. And you need to take it from there to the finish line. To write an effective first draft, you have to know going in what you want to do, which is your specific aims page, how and why your grant is going to win, which is on your grant thesis. And you have to have some background material, technical dossiers, papers, presentations, etc. And you got to recognize that we call our program Alpha, which is actually the financial term for being able to get better than average results. And it's new, right, is the takeaway. So if you have the right story walking into it, AI is very effective at delivering that story in a compelling way. It will help you do a pyramid of communication where you've got a bumper sticker at the top. It'll communicate the key elements of a winning grant that is differentiation of your product and company, which is a function of your market space, your technology, your preliminary data, and proof, where you are in your stage, your team, and your intellectual property. So it's very good at helping to tell the right best story. But it's not good at converging on the end state, which is that grant actually competitive or not? And that's where your experience needs to come into play. We've won hundreds of grants over the years, and we have external reviewers that sit on study section that review that grant. So we can help you figure that out if you'd like to work with us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andrea Bose, who's going to do a demo for us of our Alpha program. And so this is going to be from my computer. Why don't you go ahead, Andrea?
All right. Can you guys see my screen and hear me okay?
No.
It says my screen sharing is paused. Do I have permissions to do it?
You know what? I'm not going to be able. Oh, you know what? It's on the display here. It is it's not going to show up on the screen for the people in the audience.
Okay.
But let's get you. You know what? Can you share your screen, or is that not working?
It's still saying your screen sharing is paused every time I try.
Okay, let's make you a co-host, and that'll change that. Yeah, Dan, there you go. Try again, Andrea. You know what, guys? We're gonna probably try and, I know this is on my computer. Can you guys see that if it's on my computer?
It still says the same thing with it being paused.
Okay, that is weird. I don't know what's cooking. That may be something on the Zoom. In the interest of time, why don't we not do the demo?
Okay.
Sorry. But if you're interested in our AI writing tool, sorry, Andrea. If you're interested in our AI writing tool, we can absolutely do a demo for you live, or there's some we get you a trial so you can see it. But we looked at 22 different companies that were doing AI writing tools, and we triangulated on the best ones. We've got that exclusive partnership with them. So it's a pretty high speed product, and it really makes things a lot easier. next few slides really talk about how to win at a project level, right? So how to be competitive if you're submitting an individual project. And those 6 points are kind of hard-earned lessons, but searching early for a targeted solution is an advantage, right? That alignment of the solicitation versus the product.
Excuse me, Sam. Could you
Yeah.
share your presentation, please?
Thank you. All right, you can see that now, right, Dan?
Yes.
Okay, great. So getting a targeted solicitation is very useful. We have data that says if you start early and you work consistently, your score is dramatically higher, right? So being proactive is a necessary ingredient. That data is on our blog post. Look at NIH Reporter, look at USA Spending, see what has been funded, right? We do that all the time if you engage with us, but looking at whether there's white space on your product versus what's been funded is mission critical. Your program officer is an advocate for you. These programs go to council to get reviewed and approved, and they will fight for you if they like your product, if they're bought into where you're going. So build that relationship early when you preview the specific aims page with them, and advocate for the long run arc of how your company and product is going to make a dent in the universe. If you do that well, your program officer is in your corner, right? And that'll be helpful later. You still have to go through peer review first, but if you get a fundable score, they can help you win in a very competitive council. In general, this item number 5 is useful, which means talk to customers, talk to physicians that would prescribe your product, talk to the strategic partners that are building standard of care today for your space. Get market feedback, right? This is what iCore is all about. And regardless of your industry, customer feedback really matters. And then the last line is really another vote and the link there you see under higher likelihood of funding is the blog post around getting started earlier. The last slide that I have, second to last slide that I have around insights this is at really the company level, as will the next slide be. So there are we have 6 long run strategies that we've shown that our clients have used as being very effective of getting $5 million, $8 million, $15 million in funding. And your company may fit in one, it may fit in multiple, but these work. They've been proven to work. And when you get the slides, if you registered for the webinar, there's be a slide on each one of these 6 that you can go into more detail, but I'll hit them quickly. So the first is start small and go bigger. Build a snowball. Get a phase 1, get a incubator grant. You're already here, so you've already got some measure of money. Leverage that to get the next tranche and just build from wherever you start from. Collaborators, strategic partners really matter. Venture investors really matter in these grant submissions. So look for the very best collaborators you can possibly find and opt them in. Money is hard to come from now. Maybe you give them $5,000 or $10,000 of consulting on the grant. That's motivating them to be a party to your grant, especially if they've got podium power. That really makes a difference. Same thing for a company that would be a strategic partner in your marketplace. Having that company write a letter of support or be involved in your company will move the needle for reviews. It shows support from the industry. Smart grant getters are always one step ahead. They're using your current money to generate preliminary data for your next grant and maybe 2 down the line. You always have submissions that you're thinking a year ahead, a year and a half ahead. That is allowed to do, provided your work is in line with the aims of your current grant, and there's creative ways to do that that are absolutely ethical and inside the line. So getting a grant can take 6 to 9 months, maybe a year, maybe a year and a half on the outside. So you need to be thinking ahead. You need to fill your pipeline and being always one step ahead. If you have a platform company, the NIH in particular wants to hear about your product. So take your platform concept and go deep on your first product, your first application for that platform. Talk about its specific disease state, its specific impact in that market space, and win that grant. Then go after your next product, right? And when you do the same thing for your platform, and that money that you build for your first product off your platform will be useful for building your platform, right? But platforms are very useful as it relates to getting products advanced and licensed. The concept of a platform is good when it's expressed. So that strategy, and the beauty of a platform is that you can go after multiple awards with that same platform. If you've got equity funding or you're going to get it, getting a grant for that work, and again, writing a grant is tantamount to it's definitely aligned with making progress on your product. If you get grant funding for a product that you've got equity already for, the grant money just replaces that equity, that extends your runway, or you can use that equity for a new portfolio. The other idea is if your investors are like, no, we don't want you to get grant funding for this program, you can add a new program to diversify your portfolio. That adds value, reduces risk. Virtuous circle is for products and companies that have a relatively short cycle time, call it 3 years or less, to build a product. It can be 4 years. But I did this at an epigenetics tools company that I just spun out of UNC Chapel Hill. And we got grant funding, built a product using that money, brought it to market, got early revenue, and NIGMS was like, okay, they're a good bet. They gave us another grant. We did that same thing, built the product, got into market. That company has continued that virtuous circle because NIH likes to back a winner. That company is now the 5th highest SBIR winner of all time in the history of the program. So this virtuous circle absolutely works in the future. More details in the deck as you go. Okay, what do you do as a company, right? Given this landscape? Coming back to this theme, go after more and higher quality applications, right? We've got a free tool, and you can go after federal, you can go after state, you can go after nonprofit sources and non-US sources. There's lots of money out there. We can help you find that if you don't know where to look. We also have a very sophisticated online tool that is free called Evaluate, that you load up the solicitation and it walks you through the summary, confirms eligibility, looks at competitors and how competitive they're going to be, and parses that solicitation to confirm it's a good alignment with your product roadmap. We also, for active clients, help them find equity investors. So we've got access to PitchBook. If you're a current client of ours, we're going to give you names, email addresses, where to go. We offer that if you're not a client for a very nominal fee. So that's an additional element that helps add more fuel, dilutive to your engine. More quality submissions and stay after them. It is hard to get any money in any environment, but being persistent is a hallmark of success at the NIH. That's, think years, not 3-month cycles. You want to broaden and diversify relationships. Maybe there's a dual, bless you. Maybe there's a dual use application for the military. Maybe the NSF wants to do something new. You broaden and diversify those relationships of where you go. Recognize that because of DOGE, there's new rules in the payment management system. So if you have a grant already, you got to recognize the rules have changed. And they're not crazy, but you need to be aware of them and stay inside those lines. If you get a new grant, be aware of those rules. If you want, we can help you do that through our accounting and compliance division. And very importantly, foreign risk assessment is part of the law that got passed in 2022. It is the scrutiny is ratcheted up in the last 18 months significantly. So the hallmark example I will give is a client that we had a collaborator, George Church, right, out of Harvard. Harvard's not getting a lot of love from the administration. He is also an advisor for Beijing Genomics. And they denied that grant on grounds of foreign risk assessment because George Church was involved in that. George Church has been the founder or co-founder or heavily involved with many, many biotech companies that have been wildly successful, right? But this foreign risk assessment is a tight screen. The tripwires are very easy to run afoul of. And we've got an algorithm for addressing that, obviously, before you submit. So be very mindful of that. We've got a very good blog post on that that goes into detail and asks some key questions early that you'll get asked later after you've written the grant to reduce that risk later. So we think about the world in a simple way, which is find grants that apply for you, go win them, and then manage them post-award effectively. So find, win, manage. So that's really what we wanted to share today. So Hollow, with any questions, I've got a few slides just that talk about Grant Engine. If you guys are interested, is that something worth spending 2 minutes on? I'm getting a soft nod and a thumbs up. All right, we'll do this quickly. Yeah, we've got experience addressing payment management system and foreign risk. So again, find, win, manage. Within the win phase, we've got an offering that's going to fit whatever your budget is. So we've got hourly rates. That's not on the slide here. We've also got Alpha, which is our AI writing tool. That is $199 a month and a very low success fee. That is less expensive than going to Starbucks every day. All right, for a month. On the right-hand side, we have Flagship, where we write the grant. We have experts that are all very incentivized to do this. That costs under $10,000 to almost $20,000, depending on the size of the grant, plus a very nominal success fee. We write the grant. We need your involvement, but you don't have to write the grant. And your role is more about giving us comprehensive feedback than having to write from a blank page. And that role is very different, right? It's you're there helping us to be successful and knowledgeable about your product, and then we go to work, right? You giving us comprehensive written feedback, and that's very different than having to write. In the middle, you're writing the grant, so you can choose to use Alpha or not, but you're writing the grant, and this is called grantsmanship and external review, where we add expertise from lead writers about how to position your grant, how to make it win, how to de-risk your approach section, which is a particularly difficult element to score well, and that's the hardest criteria to perform in when you submit these SBIR grants. And we also have external review. That's clearly part of our flagship process, but we've recruited hundreds of people that sit on study section over the years, narrowed that down to just under 40 reviewers that sit on study section today. They're conflict cleared, 3 reviewers every grant, and they pressure test the grant, finding problems, weaknesses, fatal flaws, and suggestions for addressing them. That feedback goes back to you. You would do the rewrite under the bill section, or we do it obviously under flagship. And then for Optimize, we submit the grant for you, help you with the budget. And base, we don't do those last 2 things, but you get the big value of winnability on the grant. The cost there is low to mid thousands of dollars and another very nominal success fee. So I think pretty approachable. I think every dollar matters, but a range of offerings that really address your needs. If you are interested in getting started or want to explore your product for free, on a complimentary basis, we offer a subject matter expert review where we get your dossier of your product, what you want to go do. We do that under an NDA to protect your information. We prep for 1 to 3 hours for that call. Then we meet with you for an hour to talk about your product, where it would get funded, under what solicitation, talk about its competitiveness, talk about your readiness, and talk about how we can work together well. This affinity of working well is a high correlation to success, not only in getting a grant, but in the Life is Short department, having a good experience for you and for us as your partner. So working well together. And then that's a yes, we should move forward. You guys decide, we decide as well. And we proceed, or yes, if, and we'll let you know, here are the few things that are needed to make a competitive submission. One of the dynamics that Grant Engine always has is we always have more demand for our services than we have capacity to deliver. Like, we've added people over the years, but we always have more demand than capacity. So we're not going to engage with you unless we think it's going to be worth your time and money, because we've got other choices. We're committed to your success, which is why we do this for free. And if we tell you no, it's for a good reason. But it's either a yes or yes if, and that's worth doing before you burn time spending yourself. So that's kind of priming that has to happen. Last thing I'll say, so anyway, that link, and you can just reach out to us on our website, reach out and engage. The last thing I'll say around our economics is that we charge an upfront, as you heard, and a success fee. And always our upfront costs are below our cost to serve. Right. So we pay money to help write your grant, just like you pay money to help write your grant. And we only make a profit when you get an award. I was very intentional about this, so that if we're giving you advice, we want you to listen to it, because we're aligned. We're here to get you money, you're here to get you money, and we're working together, and our economic model backs that up. Hourly would be the only exception where that's not the case. But almost all of what we do is some version of those three things like that. So that's what we had today. Are there any? I'm going to check the chat and see if there's any questions for those participating. But is there any questions in the group about anything I quickly ran through? Yes, sir.
The one in the middle.
Yes.
Well, you said it's 199 per month.
Yes.
Let's say that you try to have a cooperation in 6 months, so you can do 6 months, and that's it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. The question was for Alpha, it is month to month. Yeah. So if you need it for 6 months, you can use it for 6 months and then turn it off. Yep. I think so yes, is the short answer. I think it is, like we said before, a good idea to keep that. I'm not trying to sell the software, but just in your business strategy, it's a good idea to keep submitting grants consistently, right? Keep that pipeline full. And this is a pretty effective platform to do that at volume that can give you quality. But if you want to shut it off, you can shut it off. Yep. Yep. All right, group. So we're in the food coma department.
You also mentioned the proposal.
Yeah.
So is that also part of the business that you company buy, or you leverage with other?
Yes, good question. So the question is, grant accounting and compliance, is that something we do, or do we have a partner? So that's a grant engine business. So we have a team of over 15 people that's growing. We're hiring for that department, and they do the accounting and compliance for you, setting up policies and procedures, ensuring you have appropriate general ledger cost structure, making sure your timesheets are collected, submitting the payments to the payment management system, getting your bank account connected to the payment management system. That's brain damage of a whole different variety. So all of that stuff we do. We have a flat monthly fee depending on the size of your grant and how many of them you have. And we don't charge a setup fee. We don't charge hourly. And so that's what we do. High level of service. The grant, of course, will pay for that service. And we have found that we tried hourly, and companies ended up paying more than if we just had a flat amount. And the real issue why we changed is that sometimes companies didn't want to pick up the phone and call us because they knew they were going to get a bill. But then they would do something, put fault, and now we got a mess we got to clean up. So we are a reliable, proven partner, and we're always audit ready. That's our hallmark. And we're here to give you flexibility to the extent that that's allowed, but always stay inside the lines. Absolutely. You can go to our website. Let me see if I can pull it up right now. We have a standard proposal that we can get you. But if you just go to grantengine.com and pull up under services, of course, you guys can't see that. Give me a second. All right. If you go to grantengine.com and under services, click, you guessed it, manage. That will get you our grant accounting compliance page. And this is what we do. Most of what we do here is grant and contract compliance. And then you can fill out that very fancy form. And Zach, Kip, Jalen, or Andrea will get back to you toot sweet. So that's a way to engage. Or you can send a note to funding@grantengine.com and we'll get back to you quickly as well. We do audit preparation is like, yeah, that's the name of the game. That you get all, that's all included. Yep. Yeah, we don't, we're not allowed to do the audit, but we've got a great partner that has done it, and we have never had a major issue. We use Thomas Julia Tucker for most of our stuff, and they know us, we know them. It's so all audit prep, there's no additional cost for audit prep. Is another concept. Yes, sir.
When you say success rate is twice higher than the national average.
Yep.
That means, say the public rate is 8%, that means the chance of getting the grant is 3%.
Exactly right. Let me pull up a slide to show that.
What's different between the 3% and 3% of the type of grant?
It's the type of grant, yeah. Here, let me share this on the screen. Oh, overshot the mark. And I'm gonna have to run here in about 10 minutes, but let me show you the slide, and we will send this to you if you would like. But this slide is our win rate by type of grant, and we benchmark this for the NIH, because they're the only agency that publishes approval rates by type of grant. So this is our win rate since we've started the company in blue by type of SBIR grant. You see the blue bar for phase ones, that's our longitudinal win rate. And for that same time period, the gray bar is the national average. So you can see here that's 2x. Contracts come out every year in October. And that is the ultimate expression of our strategy, which is let's go after something if it fits the solicitation. Contract solicitations are very specific. Very specific. And so you're either in or out. And we're very disciplined about, are you in or out from your product? And that strategy follows our subject matter expert review for everything we do, but it's particularly useful where the contract solicitation is very specific, because that helps us determine whether you should apply or not. So anyway, that's and we've got on our blog post, you can see more detail. We did an experiment at the company level, and those data are available online. You can see in our blog post.
STTRs as well.
Absolutely, we do. Yeah, do we do STTRs? Yes, we do. Absolutely, 100%. The amount of money that's available for STTR is about 1/10 that for the SBIR, but there's many cases where it makes a ton of sense for STTRs. Actually, the next slide is an interesting one, where we ran this experiment with we ran this at UNC Chapel Hill. Academics wrote. This is two different arms. The academics wrote both of these arms. We added value in the blue arm, and we just submitted in the red arm. And you can see academics got a 12% success. They were good at getting grants. They were 12% is a pretty good win rate if you're an academic in getting grant funding. But SBIRs are a different game. So it's a different lens by which you get evaluated. So that's more than you asked, but that's yeah. Oh, I'm stopping the share on the screen. So that's our win rate. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna leave my business cards. Is anyone interested in doing office hours? Where we would talk about your specific product company in an open way, we could set that up. Or if not, that's fine too. We've got a really experienced Matt Edison, who you saw is on our management team. He's available to do that right now at 1 p.m. if you're interested. I've got to jump to another meeting. But let me, if I can just get a hand raised, if anyone's interested in doing that now. Thomas?
I'm interested, but I can't do anything.
No problem. You have my card. So just email me, or you got the invite from Dan. Just email us back and we'll find a time for you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Thomas. All right, great. All right, thanks everyone for the time. Appreciate it. All right, Dan, can you still hear me? All right.